You smell that?
Oh.
Smell the odor?
Yeah.
These just came out of the fermenter. When you want to smell the best chocolate in the world. Cocoa beans smell like dirty socks.
Yeah.
When you take them out of the fermenter.
Oh yeah.
Now these came out of the fermenter yesterday. Now these are the Forastero, kind of an almond shaped, larger bean. And again, about 85% of the world's chocolate comes from the Forastero bean. Now these are the Criollo over here. Criollo beans are more rounded like a large peanut. You can see they're more rounded. You won't have the odor.
They don't have as much as an odor.
No, because these just came out. These have been out in the sun almost 2 weeks.
Oh, how long do they have to stay in the sun for?
22 to 28 days.
Okay.
And the reason the variation is it's due to weather conditions. They have to have a minimum of 22 days of constant sunshine. And we have to take them 50% moisture down to 7. And we know 22 days of constant sunshine is rendering that moisture content to that level. But if we do have cloudy days or rainy days, then of course we have to extend them in the sun that much longer. So that's why extraction goes from 22 days up to 28 days from the sun. Now we brought the beans down to 7% moisture where we actually are ready to make chocolate. We take it through 5 steps. Cleaning is not washing the beans, you're removing extraneous matter. And we clean our beans the old-fashioned way. We raise the lids on the bins each morning. We have to rake the beans to make sure they're uniformly dry. We hand cull out every extraneous item we will see. You have to bear in mind we deal in poundage, the industry deals in tonnage. So if we were a tonnage operator, we'd have to get a lot more. First step is removing the impurity. Second step is roasting. That's where we seize and lock the flavor inside the cocoa bean. And we use a coffee roaster. Now the big commercialized cocoa bean roasters, which are computerized, probably the capacity is about 10 tons. And we didn't have the budget to afford it. We didn't have a physical plant to accommodate it. And we didn't have enough even beans to even operate it. So we use a coffee roaster and we roast to lock in the flavor. And then after the flavor's been locked in the beans come out nice and shell is still there. That rusty colored shell still encapsulates the nib. Well, the shell is where all the bacteria is and it's virtually indigestible. So now we have the FDA requires that shell to be cleanly removed, and now it comes to this piece of equipment. Now this is a new winnower. A gentleman in Clearwater, Florida built these. He's a master machinist. We had our old one right here. It stood about 3 to 4 feet high. Took me 80 hours to do 4,000 pounds of beans or 2 tons of beans. 80 hours. This new one has shaved 60 hours off. I can do it in 20 hours. So that's why I kiss this machine every time I walk by. Now this is a winner. Now what you do, if you ever go into a chocolate shop to buy a nib to snack on, to put over your smoothies, put over whatever you want to do, you never see whole bean nib. It's always in pieces. Because what we do is we take the aspirator here, put it in a big container of beans, and the beans are aspirated or actually vacuum up to this hopper, and then it drops down into this breaker. And the breaker will fracture the bean into pieces of shell and nib. The shell has acquired aerodynamic quality when it roasts. If you cast a handful of shell to the environment, it has flotation qualities. Nib is heavier. So when it emits from this breaker onto these vibrating sieves, it's broken into pieces of shell and nib, advances forward through the vibrating process, and you can see these calibrated aspirators here. Now when that aerodynamic shell and heavier nib passes under those aspirators, they've been calibrated to lift the shell up, away, and deposits in the wastebasket. But the nib being heavy will not be lifted, and it drops into these trays. And when this thing is operating for about the first 10 minutes, pure nib will come pouring out of these trays. So that's how you get the shell away from cocoa beans. It's called winnowing the beans. Now once we get all the little pieces of pure nib free of shell, we're ready to make chocolate. Conching room. Now conch is one of the procedures for actually rendering the bean or making it into edible chocolate. There are 36 carbon steel blades in the cavity of this unit, and they're arranged like a fan turbine on a jet engine, and it is loud as a jet. It's 139 decibels of sound. If you enter this room with it operating without ear protectors, chances are you're going to have a roaring in your head for several days, or you might even have a bursted eardrum. But it's the nature of the beast, and the beast has to operate for 18 hours. Now the first 2 hours we put the little pieces of nib, we ingest it into the unit here, and for the next 2 hours the blades will actually neutralize that solid piece of nib material or nib pieces into a liquid. And at that point it becomes a chocolate liquor. There's no liquor in it, it's just pure unadulterated liquid chocolate. Then we embark on a secondary ingredient run, which is a 16-hour run. And that's when we actually have all the ingredients for either milk or dark chocolate at the ready. Once it engages, we will put all the ingredients in. For the next 16 hours, these fan turbine blades are very methodically mixing all the ingredients in with that liquor. And as the blades turn to mix, they loosen and tighten. That has a grinding pressing effect, meaning if you introduce a granular substance such as sugar, which we do, it will refine the particles of that sugar down to the finest point of distribution. That means that texture. When you put the chocolate to your tongue, it's smooth as silk. 18 hours out, we have milk and dark chocolate. It's kind of thick. The consistency is like a loose fudge. So now we have to liquefy it so we can create the liquidity and pump it through the pipe system. So we use a soy emulsifier called lecithin. And then we add vanilla. We have to use a powdered vanilla. Now on this island grows Hawaiian vanilla, but he only has an extract, but the extract has an alcohol base. So if you use an alcohol-based vanilla in this unit with temperatures up to 200, maybe 300 degrees, it volatiles. So we have to put a powdered vanilla in it. We have to import the present time bourbon vanilla from Madagascar. It's a very expensive powder form of vanilla, but we have to use the very best vanillas for two reasons. Proper flavor enhancement, and secondly, a good quality vanilla will give a life force to the chocolate. Meaning, wherever you buy your premium chocolate in the world, you're going to pay good money for it, but it has a shelf life of 4 to 5 years. You don't have to eat it for 4 or 5 years. Not many people leave it on the shelf for 4 or 5 years. We don't make white chocolate because white chocolate is not chocolate. White chocolate is extruded yellow cocoa butter, sugar, milk, and vanilla, and it comes from a specialized facility called an expeller facility. No such facilities of that sort in the state of Hawaii. So we can't do Hawaiian white chocolate even if we wanted to, because we cannot acquire 100% Hawaiian cocoa butter. So that's why we do not do Hawaiian white chocolate. We choose to keep it Hawaiian. That's the reason we can't make a white chocolate. Now once the chocolate's finished here, it's an edible chocolate. It's pumped into these holding tanks. Now this is a 2,000 pound holding tank here, and we have a 1,000 pound holding tank over there. And thanks to the Rita money that we got, most of this equipment over here is as a result of that. Now we can hold the chocolate here, and what we do, you can come down here and see a little better, because this milk is not, I'm getting ready to make 1,000 pounds of milk. I just made 1,000 pounds of dark. What we're doing here, as I mentioned earlier, we pump the chocolate. Once it comes out of the conch, it's edible chocolate. It's pumped in there for storage. Then we incrementally pump 200 pounds at a time from the storage tank into these tempering kettles. Now tempering is where you're stabilizing the cocoa butter crystals. And when cocoa butter cools in chocolate, it forms stable and unstable crystals. We have to have all stable. And the way we temper the chocolate or retain it to the stable crystals, we have to physically activate the chocolate with paddles. And then we start circulating cool water through this water jacket. And the circulation of the cool water through this water jacket will gradually cool the chocolate down very slowly. And we cool it from about 120 down to about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now as those cocoa butter crystals convert, they go stable and unstable. And the unstable eventually, as it cools very slowly, will realign the molecular configuration from unstable to stable. That gives you all stable crystals, and that means at that point the chocolate is tempered. And in that way, it gives it a nice satin sheen, a nice snap when you break it, and it also facilitates it coming out of the mold and put it into it. Now these are the mold. And once it's tempered, we have a pipe assembly that actually allows us to transport the chocolate from the tempering kettle over to the jogger table. Now, you have to imagine the pipe assembly because it's not attached, but we're attaching a pneumatic pump in this cabinet will force the chocolate through the pipe assembly And then we have a manifold attached to the pipe centralized in 4 3-ounce bars. This is a direct deposit. It's a jogger table. And what the jogger table does is jog the mold on the surface of the table, evenly distributes that liquid chocolate in the cavity of the molds, and the jogging effect also eliminates air bubbles, so it gives it a nice smooth surface. And then once it's fully jogged and evenly distributed and all the air bubbles in it smooth, they go onto these pastry racks and sheets. And it's rolled in here, and the pastry racks and sheets are rolled in here. And this room is climatized at 64 degrees Fahrenheit, 50% humidity. Now the chocolate enters this room as a liquid configured chocolate on the trays, but with the atmosphere being 64 degrees, it will start solidifying, and within a couple of hours all that liquid chocolate is fully solidified. And then what we do is we demold the chocolate over here, and the girls will put it in these sealed containers because chocolate is aromatic. If we somehow get smoke to infuse into the room or a big foul odor, then the chocolate would actually pick that up. So demolded, packaged, and it's shipped from right in here. So it's come from the tree to the finished product right here. And we have you on a DVD too, by the way. It's called Chocolate is Aloha. And it goes over here.
When did you start doing these?
Oh, we've been doing this, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We do a 1-ounce plumeria. We do the little bite-sized plumerias. Yeah. And I think Pam has your sample of that in here.
I don't remember this.
Yeah. So that's the end of the line from the tree to the finished product right here.
Well,